Hi, everybody. I've had a few people ask me about how I handle big blocks of color using my parking method, so I thought I'd just make a tutorial video to show you. So as I've often said before, when I am working in a big block of color, I often work across several diagonals at once. I just find it more efficient, helps to avoid lines, so that is why I do it that way. Um, so sometimes my stitching can end up looking a little less diagonal. As I often say, I'm more diagonal-ish and not strict with my diagonals. My big thing is that I avoid closing in stitches as much as I can, so I do the stitches that are to the left and above before doing stitches that are below and to the right because of the way that I slope my diagonals. If you do yours in a different direction, then you can adjust accordingly. This is just how I do it. So here is where I'm currently working across a few at once, as you can see. I'm someone who doesn't cross as they go, so that is why I've got a bunch of half cross stitches done here, and then I'm going to go back and cross them. So I do breaks where it sort of makes sense for me to do them. There's really not a lot of hard and fast rules. I just go with my instinct, follow the colors, and work it out that way. So I've got a little bit of confetti down here, but you can see most of this area is 2 to 3 colors. So I hope that will give you a better idea by the end of this tutorial how I handle that. And yeah, big blocks are quite satisfying to stitch because you can really see your progress. And that's another reason why I like the parking, because, you know, by the time I get to the bottom of a diagonal, all those stitches are done. There's nothing missing to fill in later like there was before I did parking. So, because I always found that at the end, you had to spend a whole day or two finding all the lone stitches that you missed to fill in later. And oh, it just took forever. Felt like you were making no progress at all. So I prefer this a bit more slow and steady. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to park this in the row below. One stitch shy. Let's take a look at, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually do that row too. With big blocks, I often have some threads will be coming from the left side and working out and then back in. Some will come from the right, working in and then back out. And they sort of meet in the middle. That is just kind of what makes sense to me. So often depends on what I already have parked in an area, that sort of thing. So by the end of this, we shall see a fairly good amount of progress, I should think. Just trying to avoid stitching over my grid line here because it's easier to remove later. Not the end of the world if you do stitch over it, because I'm using the Sulky Monofilament thread and it can't be pierced with the needle, so it will slide out, but yeah, it is easier to pull it out when you have it on top and you can just stick your needle underneath and slide it free. I may have to add another thread here. This may not be enough to cross all of these. I will often too sort of break this up, so I will do sort of some detail work, then do some long rows or do some detail work up above, you know, elsewhere, just to keep from getting bored and keep from getting a repetitive stress injury. So, because yeah, that is one danger when you're doing bigger blocks. At least for me, I am very prone to repetitive stress injuries, so I have to be very careful not to overdo the same movement over and over without breaks, or I'm gonna pay for it later. I think this actually might be just right to finish that row. Yeah, that seems perfect. So end this off. Yeah, I don't always work in rows, but big blocks of color kind of lend themselves to that kind of stitching, so it ends up being that way. Okay, so now this next row, you can see it's not all the same color. There are a couple different colors, and there is a couple part threads, so I'm going to show you how I deal with that. So this time I'm going to go from the left edge outwards, like I said before, that I do sometimes. Make sure I'm actually piercing this in the correct spot here. So okay, so these three, then we're going to go to the next row down and do those 5. Oh, speaking of which, I didn't pierce it in the correct spot there. That would have looked weird. I find especially with the darker colors, I have to be careful of that, because if you miss the hole and you leave a little gap of white, it really shows through in the darker colors. So okay, so that row is now done. So I'll mark it as such. And then the next row I can still do without closing anything in. So I will do that too. But then the row after that, you can see there is a stitch to the left of it here, and if I extend past here, I would close that stitch in, so we will be parking and switching colors at that point. Okay, and then I'm going to park that in the row below. So now I'm going to switch colors here. Now I can see with this symbol, I'm going to end up with a bunch of threads because there's quite a lot of branching off, even if it is in the same area. So I will show you how I do that. So I generally carry threads down to the left and then add new threads as I go further towards the right. So that's what I'm going to do here. And as usual, I always park in the same spot. So if that means going the opposite direction from the lower right to the upper left, when I'm finished my cross, that's what I do so that I can always park in the same spot and I won't mess myself up. Okay, so we are going to add another thread here for this color. So we may end up with, we have only, 2 or 3 colors here, but we may end up with quite a few threads. That's just the way this method tends to work out. Okay, so I'm going to do these 2 in the corner. Okay, I'm going to park this here. And that means I'm going to add another thread of this color at this point. Okay, so 796 to form another branch here. The thing is too, with these big sections of color, you would have needed several threads to stitch them anyway, even if you were doing it, cross country and not the way I'm stitching. So I figure it all works out to be pretty much the same at the end. Okay, so again, I'm going to hug this edge here. Oh, I pulled a little too far and the loop disappeared. We'll try that again. I think this piece was a little shorter than I anticipated. That's why that happened. Okay, so these 4, these 3 now, so I crossed one of them. Okay, and then I'm going to park this right here underneath that other thread. So now I'm going to pick up this thread again and I'm going to carry it all the way out. I'm not extending past, of course, because I don't want to close in the stitch above it. I will add a new thread when I'm doing that next diagonal and take care of those stitches then. Some people may prefer to just do that stitch anyway, even if it is closing in the one above it. It's totally up to you. I just find it a little bit neater when I avoid boxing stuff in, so that is why I do it this way. Yeah, as you can see, we're already at over 70 stitches, so this these larger sections fly by quite quickly. So yeah, depending, I sometimes have even 4 or 5 of the same color if there is a lot of branches. I find that's just how it works for me. And of course, because if there's a lot of color in that area, those end up getting used up pretty quick anyway, so. Okay, and again, parking this down below, and then I'm going to switch colors again. And yeah, depending on the colors, I often start working across several diagonals and it ends up a smaller section, and then I end up working my way out as different colors interrupt the flow there. So I think it still keeps things somewhat interesting, I should hope. And then there's enough breaks built in too from my switching threads that I don't get sore arms. Yeah, I made the mistake of pushing myself once and then I couldn't stitch for like 2-3 days, so it really was not worth it. It wasn't really faster. Plus, I mean, you don't want to be in pain if you can avoid it, right? Okay, so. Park this here. Okay, switching colors again. Okay, and back to the other color. Okay, so I could go over to the left again and continue working out, or I could decide to keep going with this section here. So that's what I'm going to do this time. Totally, again, up to you. You could decide to go here and fill out until you get there. It's either way, I'm not closing anything in when I do this, so that's why I decided to do it that way. So I think I have like 4 threads of this color attached at the moment in this area. So I'm going to start from here because it just makes more sense to go from the left outwards and back so that I can park here without leaving a long carry on the back. That would just be inefficient, so do it that way. Sometimes in a large block too, if I have a thread of a color that's kind of in the middle, I might sort of go left and back and then right and back for a row, if that makes sense. It just, especially if, say, I don't have another thread attached nearby. Either way, I'm still not boxing stuff in, which is my biggest concern. Okay, and then I did this stitch below. Now I'm parking that there. So again, I can go further over to the right and attach another thread, or I can come over and work from the left out. So I think I'm going to do that for a bit. So give you guys an idea of how I do this. Okay, and then this color. Yeah, we'll see how long this is, but this is probably going to run out fairly soon. Okay, and park. Now, with this color here, I could decide to do this stitch and then park it here. But what I'm actually interested in doing, oh, I'm going to unpark that now. What I'm actually interested in doing is sort of doing a bunch at once. So I'm going to fill in all the stuff to the left of it so that I can do this stitch and a bunch of these all at once. And then come back up so that I find that a more efficient use of my threads. So fill this in. Okay, now I have 2 threads of this color parked, so I'm just going to see how long they both are. I think this one in the corner, oh no, it is longer than I thought. And this one is not very long, so that is why I have 2 there. I think this is only going to be enough to do a couple of stitches, and then I will be switching to the other color. I think this might be just long enough to reach over here and do this one lone stitch. So yeah, that is what I'm going to do. It's going to tack it with a pin stitch there, and then I'm going to unthread that because it's short and it won't want to stay threaded. So Want to make sure that comes up neatly and not messing all the other threads. Okay. I tell you, I'm not having luck today. I had to get up early this morning for an appointment, so I'll blame it on that. My husband was snoring a bit last night too, so. Oh my goodness. Ah. Winter and my skin is dry. Sometimes it catches the thread and pulls it, unthreads it like that, so. Okay, there we go. All right, and then that is part and out of the section. I'll be doing that when I do the next pass. So, oh, wrong one. There we go. Okay, so still filling this in. Okay. And add a thread here, 37.52. Had a bit of fluff from the wrong side coming up, so make it go back down to the wrong side. This will still be enough for a couple more stitches, so I'm going to park it there. Okay, and then I have to do one more before I can do a bigger section. So yeah, this is a short one, so finish this stitch and end off this thread. Then we'll be getting back into some bigger blocks again. Okay, so that is why I filled all that in, because I wanted to be able to do these all in one go. That way nothing was closed in and I didn't need to add an extra thread where it wasn't necessary. So I do have multiple threads of the same color, but I try to keep my use of threads as efficient as possible. So I'll add them when I need them, but I try not to add too many if it's avoidable. Just sort of striking a balance between the two. Okay, and that's parked there. So we're going to start heading out towards the right again. Oh, I forgot to cross something. Wasn't that interesting? Oh, silly me. It's this one here. Yeah. Ah, goodness. Oh my. I bet you guys saw that and went, hey, what are you doing, lady? Okay. There we go. Now it's correct. Yeah. I tell people who are intimidated by my method, don't be. I am definitely as prone to mistakes as anybody. Okay, parked. Oh, goodness. There. Okay, I think this will be just enough to do these last 2 stitches in this square here, so that's what I'm going to do with them. Oh wow, look at that. We're over 150 already. Yeah. These larger sections go very quickly. Okay, 792. So yeah, I fill in these little lone stitches as I get to them, and then they're not all left to the end. Especially since I have missed 1 or 2 before and didn't notice until I was actually washing and ironing and everything that I had actually missed a stitch or 2 before I started parking. So that is another reason why I like doing it. Okay, let me see where I am. Right here. Oh, I hate when that happens. Needle came unthreaded. Nothing like pulling it through to the other side to discover there's no thread attached. Okay. Okay, so can you guess what I'm going to do next? Can't do this all yet because there is stuff to the left of it that I want to fill in first. And then we'll be doing a whole bunch of that hamburger, I call it, symbol at once. Okay. And one more lone stitch. It's very fuzzy. We'll see if it will cooperate. Yeah, we got it. Okay, so the more we work our way out from this left edge, the more bigger blocks we're going to get, as you can see by looking at the pattern. See if I can get that to, yeah, come up with the needle still on. Most times I can, but sometimes I can't. Okay, so back to this color. I could do a bunch in a row. Okay, yeah, I think that's all I'm going to get out of that strand. And besides, I have to do 2 more stitches on that left edge again. these other threads out of my way so they don't get caught with my working thread. Right, and then I have to add another of this color right here, as you probably guessed I was going to do. And then I'm going to have a few threads sort of attached to run out towards the right hand side. And I may add others closer to the right hand side and sort of, again, like I said, have them meet in the middle. It will depend. We'll see when we get there. Forgot to make sure I park in the upper right. That is my only strict rule. Always park in the same place so I don't get mixed up. Okay, 798. Yeah, you can see these colors are sort of all in a row. 796, 97, and 98, 99. All part of the shading here. This one last stitch and end off this thread. Yeah, so that is why I carried it over from the left, then I didn't have to add another one just to do this stitch. Works out well since the thread was about to run out anyway. Okay, let's see. So I switch back to this shape here. I'm gonna take a look. I don't have any short threads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this with one. Yeah, this one is not terribly long, so I'm going to do these two, carry it here, because I think this is going to run out soon. We'll see how soon. This way I didn't have to add another one. And actually I'm going to do the one down here and then carry it back up. So if I'd had some shorter pieces, I probably would have added it here rather than carrying this thread. but since I didn't, I decided to skip around a little bit. Okay, park that there. Then again, I'm going to do this one because it is left post. Fill this all in so that I can do the stuff to the right of it uninterrupted. Try not to tie knots in this here. Make sure I didn't, okay, good. Make sure I didn't catch any other threads there with the working thread. Okay, and often what I will do when I get to the bottom here of this pass is I'll grab these threads that are all parked below and just tuck them away so that they're not getting caught up with the working threads there. So they're out of my way and not hassling me. Okay, so again, let's see how long this thread is. It's still a fairly new one. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to, again, hug this edge here. Okay, and park that there. Switch to this other color. Oh, we're not going to do much yet. And I think actually, yeah, this thread is done. So I'm just going to end this off and I'll start a new one once I get to this area here below it. But before I do that, can you guess what I'm going to do next? Yeah, I'm going to fill these in. Actually, I'm going to do these three here too, because then I can do the stitches below them all at once. So I hope that that's making sense there, how I do these bigger sections of color with this method. I think this one will be out pretty soon. Yeah. I'm not going to get very many, but I'm going to keep it attached because I want to use as much as I can. So I'm going to add another one here. I need to get a new one out of my envelopes. Yeah, I've been blowing through this color very quickly in this area. There's so much of it. I'm amazed how fast you can go through a hank of embroidery floss when you have a whole bunch of the same color. All right, and again with this one, instead of going from the right in, I'm going to go from the left out, because that is the most efficient. A lot of progress. Hard to believe I was starting above this grid line here, and now we've got it almost all filled in less than an hour. And then I'm actually also going to do those two and then park this out of the way. Oh, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, I could tell I had a, there. I was trying to form a knot. It didn't sound nice and smooth when it went through the fabric. So I can often tell when it sounds different, that often means something is wrong. Okay. Oh. Right. And then I'm going to head up and do this one. And then I'm probably going to be adding a new thread of the other color pretty soon. We shall see. Okay, so part there. Okay, let's see what I've got already here. I think this one is not, it's a medium length. This one is not terribly long. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a new one. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna add a new one right here. See if I can get this to line up. My gosh. I am not having luck today. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to be juggling a couple of threads in the same area. I will show you how I do that. But as you could see, I had so many threads of this other color parked for a long time, and now I'm down to one because they've all been used up. So you may have multiple threads, but I mean, eventually they will be finished. Either they run out, or you have to, either you run out of thread or you run out of stitches to do with that thread. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to park this right down here. Okay, so now we are here with these two in a very close proximity, but that is okay. So check how long that one is. Not very long. This one is longer as I just added it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in some stitches here until my thread runs out. And then I'm going to take over with the other thread. So sometimes I have multiple threads because they branch off, and then sometimes they end up coming back together like this when there's another really big area with this color, only this color, they kind of converge. Okay, I think I can get another few stitches underneath this one. Stitching over my grid line this time, but that's okay. You can see I got a nice long one above it, so that'll be where I will pull it out. Yeah, I think I can actually get another 4 here. That's all we're gonna get out of this one. So time to tie it off. Okay. So this is one I may stitch in both directions with this thread, as I mentioned earlier in this video. So park this here. I'm going to do this one. Now, this one, I am only going to do 3 and not the 4th one because I don't want to close the stuff above it. And so I usually don't cross as I go. However, if I want the thread to end up on the opposite side that I started from, then it just makes sense to cross as I go. So I don't really care if my back is perfectly consistent, so there. So park that there. So then this thread again, I'm going to do what I mentioned about stitching in 2 directions. So I'm going to stitch 3 here. And then I'm going to stitch a couple in the other direction. And I'll often go sort of a stitch or two shy of the previous row just to sort of naturally feather that edge so that there isn't a potential line. So this time I'll go one stitch shy here. And back. Okay, and then again, I'm going to kind of come from the middle and stitch in two directions, and I think I'm going to run out of thread pretty soon. And then I will switch to my other thread, which isn't very long, but I'll use it till it runs out and then add an entire new piece. So I'm going to go even this time, and then I'll go short of it the next time, maybe by a couple of stitches. I don't always go by one stitch. I kind of mix it up so that, like I said, there isn't going to be a sharp straight line, just in case you don't want lines showing up in your finished project. Oh, I might get a couple more, we'll see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to park that. We're at, okay, and then I'm going to pick up this thread and see what I get out of it. So I'm going to stitch, yeah, I can get a fair amount here. In fact, I may be able to finish all of this without adding any more threads. We'll see. So I'm going to stitch up to here. Oh goodness, I did it again. There we are. Park that, and then I'm going to pick up this other one and see what I get out of it. Okay, I'll go one stitch shy again because I have just enough thread, I think, for 4 stitches here. Yeah, so that will work. Okay, so actually I didn't have to add another one yet. I will probably be adding another one when I do the next diagonal section and work my way down to this area here. So now I will pick up this thread again. Oh, no, not that one, this one. Okay, I'm going to work 2 stitches shy of the previous, just to, like I said, feather that edge and avoid any potential lines. And if there's anything left of this thread by the time I get back to the left, I'm going to park it below, and then it's time for me to head up to the top of the pattern and work my way back down again. Okay, so that is how I handle big sections of color. So it's kind of willy-nilly, depends where threads are already parked. It depends on, you know, other colors breaking through that that large block of color. Like I said, I still try to avoid closing stuff in even on these bigger sections of color. Sometimes I will have multiple threads because that's just, oops, what makes sense. Let's try to get that to, there we go. I want that to lie nice and flat. Sometimes I have one thread that sort of goes in both directions. Sometimes I have two threads sort of meeting in the middle. It's just sort of what I have at the moment and what makes sense to me. But I hope that that makes sense to you. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment and I will do my best to answer it. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that this helped you to understand how I handle the bigger sections of color using my method. And of course, feel free to tweak it to work for you. All right, so thanks everybody. I hope to see you here again. All right, bye.